Kלים Perikut Base, Mishnah Gimel. And the Mishnah is starting off with Kisui Tani Shel Mateches, with a lid. The general rule about lids. We've had lids before in Perik Base Mishnah Hay, where we were dealing with Kli Cheres, and the rule is Kol HaMeshamish Kofui B'Kli Cheres Torah. Anything where the primary function is when the keli is upside down, i.e. a lid, the function of a lid is not called a toich for a Kli Cheres. The rules for lids of Kli Eitz are mentioned in Perik Tezayin, Mishnah Zayin, and the rule for lids for Kli Matches is, you'll find in Perik Yud Daled Mishnah Gimel, where the Mishnah says the rule Kol Hakisuyin Tahirin. The function of a lid, just to cover something, is not considered enough of a function to make it Kli Matches Mekabel Tumah. So the general rule is lids are not Mekabel Tumah. That's not called a Kli Tashmish. However, in the case of a Kisui Tani Shel Mateches Shel Bali Botim, Rabban Gamliel Metame V'Chacham Metarin. A Tani Shel Mateches is a domestic bowl lying around the house, put keys in it, coins, and of course the bowl itself, the Tani, of course, is Mekabel Tumah. But it has a lid made out of metal. The Chachamim have applied the standard rule that a lid is not Mekabel Tumah. However, Rabban Gamliel says because sometimes, even in a home, the lid in this case had some sort of base, some sort of receptacle. You could actually put little things in there, a hair clip or something inside the lid. Normally it wasn't used for that. But Rabban Gamliel says because sometimes it is also used it is used itself to put things in, therefore the lid, that's enough of a tashmish for the lid. And the Chachamim say the normal rule applies, it is primarily a lid, and the tashmish of a lid is not called the tashmish, and therefore the kisui of a Tani Shel Mateches is tor. However, says the Mishnah, if the Tani, if this bowl is used in a medical practice by a doctor, then the minig was, the usage was, that not only was the Tani used, the lid of such a Tani of the doctor was also used. He would arrange his little herbs and medicines on the lid as well. And that was a standard usage of the lid. So it didn't just act as a lid, and therefore l'chula alma, the kisui Tani shel roifim is Tani. And the Mishnah carries on. Hadeles shebe migdal. Migdal is a cupboard, and the deles is the door of a cupboard. And in this case, it seems that the Mefarshim we're dealing with a migdal shel eitz, but the deles is made out of matches, and the deles is removed from the cupboard sometimes. And the question is, the door by itself, does it have its own function? Says the Mishnah, shel bali batim, if it's just the door of a cupboard, although the cupboard is made out of eitz and the door seems to have its own chashivas, being made out of metal, but in a standard home, the door doesn't have its own function, and therefore the door is tahor by itself. However, v'shel roifim tmeah, the one used by the cupboard in a doctor's, in a surgery, that door is actually used by itself. The doctor would remove the door from the cupboard, and then the door would be placed on a table or on the floor, and then he would use the door on which to arrange his various instruments and his bandages, so it's actually used like a table. And because it's made out of metal, that's enough of a kli tashmish, and the door is now mekabel tumah midoraisa. Mishnah carries on with some more kli matches. Hayituchin tameim haparochin tahirin. Hayituchin are very simple. It's a pair of metal tongs used to remove and put things into the fire. You want to hold a keli over a fire, it's too hot, so you have a pair of tongs, you grip the kli with the tongs, and of course the tongs made out of metal are a standard kli tashmish, and of course they're tomei. However, prochin are actually also a form of tongs. These seem to be tongs which are not actually used and moved. They lie over the oven, over the stove, they sit across the top, and you place the kli on it or in it, so that it acts as a frame to stop the kli falling into the fire. Although it's matches, and it's it's got its own use. However, it's not moved. It doesn't do anything. It just holds something in place. We've had before a kli matchus, which actually doesn't have a particular movable function, just is useful by it being in a certain place and holding something together, is not considered enough of a tashmish, and therefore the prochin are tiring. And the last case of the Mishnah, the second last case is akrav beis habad tamei. Again, the Mefarshim have lots of different ways of explaining this. It would seem that the Beis Habad consists of the big koira, big wooden beam used for pressing olives. That's poshut, that this big wooden beam itself is not mekabel tumah, because under the rules of Kli Eitz it hasn't got a base kibble. That's simple. However, at the end of the beam there is an akrav. An akrav is a hook, a metal hook stuck on the side. There's a machloikis in the Mefarshim as to the exact function of this hook. The Rash says the hook had its own function. The hook was used to hang kלים, maybe the olive presser's jacket. So it had a completely separate function from the koira. Although they're mechuba, when you have two kלים which are mechuba, each have its own distinct function, and the two functions actually don't cross over and have nothing to do with each other. Just because they're mechuba, that doesn't make it one kli. The two functions don't help each other, and therefore each chelek has to be determined under its own rules. So the koira is tahor under the normal rules that a kli eitz must have a base kibble. The akrav, which is a metal hook, has its own function, and because it's not mechuba lekarka, it therefore under the rules of it is a kli matchus sheyesh lo shem ifnei atzmoi, has its own function as a hook, and therefore the akrav is tomei. However, unkalisha, the Mishnah finishes off unkalisha bekoislim tahira, a hook used, a coat hook, which is stuck into the wall. That hook is made lechaber ima karka. That hook is tahor even before you're mechaber it to the karka. In other words, if you go into an ironmonger shop and you buy a hook, and the way the hook is made is that the hook has to be attached to a wall or to a door, which is mechuba lekarka, then the hook gets a din of a nasa l'shamesh lechaber im karka, and therefore the hook is tahor even when it's not attached to the building or the karka. That's Mishnah Gimel.